Where's the best place to buy rental real estate? I get that question a lot. That is today's episode. Let's dive into it. Hey everyone, I'm Clayton Morris, longtime real estate investor. And I get the question a lot, where's the best place to buy real estate? A lot of people get frustrated because they think to look in their own backyard and they think, oh, I've got to pay $400,000 for that first rental property. And is that what I should do? Well, I headed out west. I'm actually in the state of Idaho right now to show you, because I had to see it for myself, one of the hottest growing areas in the country right now for real estate. But I want to be very clear. I'm in a town right now where I would never buy a property for a rental investment. We're in a speculative neighborhood right now where these homes that were built just last year were selling in the $300,000, $350,000 range are now selling for over $500,000. And there's construction all around this area of Idaho. So I want to show you the tale of kind of two areas where I invest versus these types of speculative investments. So you're saying to yourself, what is a speculative investment? Well, remember the crash of 2007, 2008? A lot of people were investing for appreciation. They were buying properties for $200,000 and a few months later able to sell them for $250,000. We saw that all over the country, right? In Las Vegas, and Phoenix, and Florida, and different areas. Well, the same could be said for this type of a neighborhood. It's a beautiful neighborhood, popped up out of nowhere. Whole streets were built in a matter of 6-7 months, and all kinds of construction happening. So, like I said, these same houses over on this side of the street were selling for $300,000 just last year, and now the houses that are being built across the street are selling for over $500,000. So here's an example of a house in this neighborhood. This house right now, the guy is selling it. It's a for sale by owner. So I called. I had a great conversation with him. I was curious what his asking price was. He's asking $536,000 for this house, and I wanted to find out what the bedroom bathroom count was. It's a 3-bedroom, 2-bath. So now, let's do the math on that. Okay, that's a 3-bedroom, 2-bath. And in this neighborhood, you can rent those for about $1,500 a month, $1,500 a month, okay? So $1,500 a month and on a $536,000 property is a 2% return on investment. That's like stock market level stuff, a 2% ROI. That's a terrible return on investment for a rental property. So now imagine a house that's $60,000 and the rent is $900 a month. The ROI on that is going to be way higher. We're talking double digits return on investment after you take out 40% for vacancy, repairs, expenses. And again, I've got a whole video series on understanding return on investment. But again, so this property, 3-bedroom, 2-bath, $536,000 and can rent in this neighborhood for about $1,500 a month. And again, these houses were selling for in the 300s, and I bet you the rent was probably the same when it was selling in the 300s, $1,500 a month. Now that it's valued at over $500, the rent hasn't gone up with the value of the property. All right, so Clayton, why then are you in this neighborhood? Well, I want to show you how most people think about real estate investing. Most people will be sort of weekend warriors, will go out, they'll call up a realtor, they'll say, hey, I see this home over here is for sale. This house right here is for sale. Honey, I think that this area is growing so fast. There's all these new restaurants coming into town. This would be a great area to invest. Now, I'm going to tell you why it's not. And I'm going to show you houses that I typically buy and that I do on a regular basis. The ones that I buy that in the $50,000, $60,000 range, $70,000 range in the Midwest. The reason that this is not a good investment, okay, a number of reasons. Number one, we're in a community where there's a pool in the center of this community, okay, and it has a homeowners association associated with it. So what does that mean? Well, the homeowners association takes care of the irrigation for these properties. So all of the water lines on these properties, the sprinkler systems and everything else. It also takes care of the community pool, which is in the center and the heart of this nice, beautiful community. Now, if the homeowners association says, you know what, you are not allowed to rent your houses out to anybody, and they decide to make that determination randomly, and you've purchased this property as a rental investment, guess what? You are out of luck. Now, there are certain situations where you could be grandfathered in. However, most of the time you're not going to be able to. They're going to make a blanket statement about a neighborhood, and you are going to be voted out of that. You are not going to be able to have this property as a rental investment any longer. Also, the reason that this kind of a neighborhood is not good for rental investing is because the prices are too high. You can see a whole series of videos that I've done on these different pricing and figuring out ROI, return on investment. So when a house goes above about $150,000 in cost, the rent does not keep up with the value and the cost of the house, okay? So these houses, like I said, just last year selling in the 300s, now selling in the 500s. So if I buy one of these houses, the rent is not going to go, from $2,000 a month to $4,000 a month in 1 year. It's not going to happen. The rent may go up a little bit, but because of all of these other houses being built in this area, you're not going to be able to command a higher rent just because the value and the cost of the property has gone up. It simply does not happen. So the rule of real estate investing, and some people would argue with me that it's about $150,000 to some would say maybe $175,000. I would never buy anything above $150,000 when it comes to single-family rental investing, for the simple fact that the rent will not keep up with the cost of that house. It's just simple math. So that's why I like to stay in the $50,000, $60,000, $70,000, $80,000 range for the properties that I purchase, because the rent can be commensurate with the value. And it makes sense in those price ranges to be in those B and C class neighborhoods where you can get high ROI. So we see all of this construction happening in this neighborhood. So why would somebody purchase a property in this neighborhood? Well, they're thinking, number one, this is a great flip, right? I'm gonna put some money into this house because it's right now selling for $350,000, or it's selling for $500,000, and there's all of these other homes being built around here. Maybe I can sell it for $550,000 6 months later. And that's speculation. That's a speculative investment. That is something I would never do. And that is how a lot of people got burned during the recession and during the big crash, buying for speculation. Because what happens if that's not true? What happens if you do purchase that property, and guess what happens? The market tanks, right? And now you purchase this property for $550,000 or $500,000, and suddenly now it's only worth $450,000, and you've got a mortgage on this property. Now you cannot sell it, and you've taken a $100,000 loss on this house. That is a speculative investment. Now, if I were a developer and I were building houses here and I was involved in that game of real estate investing, it's not even real estate investing, it's development, right? So all of this grassland here, we found out that a Costco is going to be coming over here as I was doing research on this area. And so all of this area is going to be built up. From a development standpoint, fantastic. And the developer is going to make off like a bandit. But for buy and hold real estate for the purposes of holding and creating cash flow, this area does not work. Now, let's visit another area where I do buy rental properties. And this is in the Midwest. Let's just take a drive through Michigan, where I do a lot of my rental properties, one of my favorite areas. As you know, if you see my video, my very first rental property, you can click the video here, the card up in the upper right, to see the very first house that I ever bought. And I think I bought it for about $28,000, and I put about $25,000 or so into it, I think, in construction costs to fix it up. That is the type of property that now cash flows $900 or $950 a month. That is a fantastic return on investment. And the other properties that I do in the Midwest, all across that area where you have stability. I'm not investing for speculation. It's nice that it'll appreciate. That's fantastic if it does appreciate a little bit, but I am not investing for appreciation. I'm investing for the cash flow and the stability of a long-term tenant. Here, as we drive down some different streets here in the Midwest. Now, these homes that I do are in the 50s, 60s, roughly in that range. Cash flowing between $750, $800, $900, even $1,000 a month. That is stability. That is not speculation. So the difference between the two. Now, this is one of the fastest growing areas in the country right now. This is, a lot of people are leaving, Silicon Valley and moving here and creating another Silicon Valley in Idaho. That's fantastic, good for them. but this is not an area where I would invest in cash flowing rental real estate. So I hope that makes sense. I'd love to hear your thoughts about it. Any questions you have, please post them in the comment thread below. And thank you so much for subscribing to the channel. I really appreciate it. Check out all of the other videos and education tools that we have here in order to help you go out there and to take action and become a real estate investor. We'll see you next time, everyone.